anybody out there? I hope you can hear us and welcome you to the Alumni Talks of April, the second session, Europe evening and America's, I think, around lunchtime. So I already see three hellos. That's nice. And welcome to everyone. Um, Welcome from AIESEC Alumni International and AIESEC Alumni Europe for the first speaker of the second session. Welcome with me, Dieter from Austria, who will give us an amazing alumni talk and will lead us through the next minutes and hour. So I hope you enjoy it as me and have a good time. So Dieter, I hand it over to you. I'm curious to hear your talk.
Thank you very much, Christiane. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And welcome to an exciting, untraditional, for me exhausting, and hopefully for you rewarding hour. Maybe let's do it this way to get started properly. I can see some people already have been typing something. I'm curious from all of you, more or less, that you just write where you're from and that you can hear everything perfectly fine and that you can see the first slide. If you'd be so kind just to type in the chat box that everything is okay and where you're from. I would appreciate this. Okay, even Vienna just from around the corner where I am. Okay. Huber, where are you from? Someone else from Vienna. Wow, a lot of Austrians. Okay. Excellent. Wow, quite a number of people, many more than I thought. Beautiful. Okay, excellent. Burkina Faso, beautiful. Okay, Doc. Very briefly about myself. My name is Dieter Langenecker. I'm 65 years old. I'm father of 3 and grandfather of 5. And at a time when the dinosaurs still were wandering on this planet, I also was with AIESEC, which means I was in AIESEC from 1977 to 1981. And I was a local committee president in Graz, Austria, and then, as it was then called, NCP in Austria. And later on, some 2-3 years ago, I was also in charge for AIESEC alumni in Austria. I started my career as what you would call nowadays coach for personal development. At the time, this term didn't exist. And what happened was that very soon, my clients came after 2 or 3 years and said, Dieter, we like what you're doing, but can't you go a little bit deeper? And then by coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidences, I met another famous Austrian, and you know, there are so many famous Austrians, called Viktor Frankl. And just out of curiosity, could you be so kind and type in the chat box if you ever heard about Viktor Frankl? So I know if I have to explain a little bit or if seems to be well known anyway. Just type, okay, I get some yeses here. Nope, I haven't. Okay. There's some no's. So let me very briefly explain what this is with Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the Holocaust, the only survivor of his family for this matter. And afterwards, he founded what is called the logotherapy, the therapy of meaning. And just to be very brief about this, he wrote a book which is called Man's Search for Meaning. And for instance, in the Library of the Congress in Washington, D.C., there is a list of the 100 most influential books for American history. And his book, Man's Search for Meaning, no, let me put it this way. Number 1 of this list is the Bible, but this is not a surprise. But his book, Man's Search for Meaning, is number 7 out of the 100 most influential books for American history. It's very thin. It's only 80 pages, but it's really profound. And afterwards, if you want, I can send you a list of my book recommendations, and there you can read more about his book as well. Anyway, by coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidences, I was saying, I met Viktor Frankl because my mother happened to know him, and he took me under his wings, and he said to me, well, why don't you help your clients to find an answer to the simple question? And he really said simple question. Why are you really here on this planet? besides to make money, besides to make career, besides to get recognition, and besides maybe to raise children? Why are you really, really, really here? You know, like the Spice Girls. And then I was saying, well, this is it. So ever since, I'm not doing anything else but helping people to find the purpose in life and how to implement it. And also, ever since I left AIESEC, more or less, every time I went, I help out with doing a keynote or a workshop. So I was more than happy to help out here as well, to show you a little bit some ideas how you can deal with the crisis we're in and how maybe defining or redefining your purpose can be of practical help here. May I suggest, if you don't have anything to take notes, now it's the best time to get something, either smartphone or even better, paper and pen, because what is in the next few minutes might be worthwhile for you to take some notes. The background, the philosophy, in 2 minutes. Viktor Frankl was always saying, in our societies, we used to measure our success on a line from 0 to 100%, on a line from failure to success. The question he asked was, how do most people measure their success? And may I ask you to write down in chat box a little bit, what are the typical ways people are measuring their success? Can you give me some opinions, some indications what you think that how people are measuring their success? Money, exactly. Problem with money is other people don't see it. So therefore we have to do something with money, and most of the time, well, happiness would be nice. I'll come to this in a second because someone is writing happiness in the chat box. Money cannot seen by others, so most people buy stuff. They buy cars, they buy a house, they go on holidays and so on. And that's perfectly okay. We only forget that there is another axis, an axis which goes from fulfillment all the way down to depression. And the question we should ask ourselves is, in which one of the 4 quadrants are we? I think you will agree if I claim, like Viktor Frankl was, that the nicest thing would be to be in the upper right corner, number 1. Inner fulfillment, outer success. I think you will also agree if I claim that the last thing we want is number 4, the lower left side, neither nor. Number 3, upper left side, outside failure, inner fulfillment. Frankl was always saying, these are the monks in the Himalaya. It's not our culture. We shouldn't imitate it, maybe learn a little bit, but not imitate it. It's not our culture. The sad thing, so he said, is that in our culture, most people are in the lower right corner. Number 2, outside everything looks perfect, but inside it's the big black hole. And then try to compensate a minus on this axis with more on this axis, completely forgetting that at the end of the day, we have to find the personal balance, an individual balance between inner fulfillment and outer success. There is no general or even less specific rule. It's just we have to find our own personal balance between these 2 areas. Now, of course, then the next question was coming up, how to achieve it. And then Frankl was saying it is 3 + 2 steps. 3 obvious steps and 2 not so much steps. And the obvious steps are how, what, and why. And if someone of you have heard about Simon Sinek, Frankl was some 30 years before he was Simon Sinek, and he had it in a different way, in the following way. How is, for instance, how can I learn a language? How can I develop a product? How can I ... and then you fill in the blank. What are my goals? Usually material goals. And this is where most people stop. So many clients come to me and say, Peter, I've tried this in my life. I've tried that in my life. I've been doing this and this, crisscrossing, zigzagging around, maybe even been successful in material terms. But then they say, there's still something missing inside. There's still this inner black hole. Why? And then I'm always saying, well, exactly because of what you're saying, because you have not found an answer to the question why, or rather what for. What for are you really here on this planet in non-material terms, besides to make money, besides to make career, and so on. And then people come and say, Peter, you got a point. Help me to define my why. And then I say, okay, but we don't start with your why. And then I say, why not? And then I say, yes, because we have to, first of all, go a little bit deeper, go into the subconscious, go into the areas where our fears, blocks, and concerns are, and maybe even deeper than this, go where we have our emotional core wounds and our emotional gifts. We have to first see what is holding us back subconsciously, what fears are there, what blocks are there, because otherwise it's impossible to creatively think what is my why, and even less probable and easy then to define our what and our how. Just checking in between, maybe in your chat box as well. Making sense so far? Anything clear? Any questions or any comments? Just feel free to write whatever comes to your mind. Okay, so far seems to be okay. Wonderful. Okay, good. Now, what I want to show you in this hour is the following. By gifts, you mean, well, there's a question by Michael, by gifts, does he mean talents? Not only talents. Okay, let me very briefly explain the core wounds and gifts principle, because this is important anyway, because this is one of the major things where I see challenges. I don't like to use the word problems, challenges for people who are trying to be successful. I give you an example, two examples actually. Some 15 years ago, I was doing a program in Switzerland for the board of directors of a big company. And there were 7 men, all 55 plus years of age. And one of the exercises I told them was the following. I asked them to write down on a piece of paper from the success they have achieved in their lives. Who should see their success? And they were writing it down. And then in the coffee break and during dinner time, they were coming to me one-to-one to share with me their individual personal reply to this question, answer to this question. And you know what happened? Five out of the 7 men told me that they've been writing down their father, even so he maybe has already been dead for many years. But these folks were working 40, 50 years, 70, 80 hours a week, heart attack, divorce, no time for children, only to be able to go to daddy one day and say, daddy, look what I've achieved. I'm a good boy, right? Completely driven their whole life subconsciously. But it not only starts when we're older, it starts when we are young. 5 years ago in Vienna, I was invited at the startup conference, and there was a competition, and I was in the jury, and there were 2 young guys, 24, 25 years of age, who got the first prize for an app for elderly people. Don't ask me the technical details, I don't have any idea. Anyway, they got the first prize, and then one of them stood up and said he is so proud, so happy at such a young age, do something meaningful for the world, to make the world a better place, and all this blah, blah. Perfect. We had dinner together. And after some glasses of wine, he said, but now it would be really nice if a big multinational company would come and buy the whole stuff for 1 or 2 million euros. But this was only the beginning. After some more glasses of wine, he said, and then hopefully my father will come and say, son, I'm proud of you. They were doing something good for society, no question about this, but subconsciously they were completely driven by something which was an emotional wound, or as I call it, a core wound from their childhood. Now the point here is, and to come to the question, what is the gift? Every core wound also has a gift side. Every coin got 2 sides. Example, personal example. My core wound was that when I was 5 years old, my brother was born. For 5 years, I was in the center of attention of my parents. All of a sudden, the competition was coming, 5 years younger, crying, noisy, and still my mother was giving more attention to him than to me. So I thought, oops, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable enough. And I developed a strategy to overcome this deficit, to overcome this feeling of I'm not good enough, which, by the way, is one of the core feelings most of us have subconsciously. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable enough. So I developed a strategy to overcome this. And my strategy was, I have to be nice to other people. I have to be helpful. I developed what is called a helper syndrome. And up to a certain extent, I still have it, but hopefully not as much as 50 years ago. What does it mean in practice? For instance, my mother every Wednesday had a circle of friends invited who were discussing about philosophy and psychology. At the age of 10 years, I started to help my mother to prepare the table. Not because I was interested in psychology or philosophy at this age, but rather hoping that she would say, yes, you're so nice and I love you, you're a good boy. But at the age of 12, 13 approximately, I started to listen in these discussions. At the age of 14, 15, I started to participate in this conversation about philosophy and psychology. At the age of 17, 18, I had a knowledge about these topics you would never, ever have in this age at all. But in my case, it was because of the core wounds. There were core gifts, the positive side as well. And even later, when I started my job, after a few years, some clients, one client was coming and was about 30 years old and said, Dieter, this is very interesting. Can you give a speech in our company? I said, sure. How many people will there be? He said, well, not too many, about 200. I almost cheated in my houses, excuse my French. And I not only did it, I also was teaching presentation techniques for almost 10 years to big companies like Nestle and BMW. And if you tell me today, Peter, tomorrow you have to give a speech in front of 1,000 people, I love it. But I would never, ever have learned it if it would not have been for the core wounds, because they also have core gifts, because they also have a positive side. The point is only I have to be aware of it. What is it, both which is a wounding, and what is it, which is the positive side? So to come back to the question here in the chat, gift can be talents or it can be skills which I developed because of an emotional wounding. What does it all mean? It all means I only can have a purposeful, meaningful life. I only can find answers to problems in the outside world if I'm in harmony with myself, if I have inner balance, inner calm, and inner strength. And I want to show you a simple technique, which maybe some of you have heard, but I will modify it a little bit. A simple technique, how you can do this for you to become clear. What is it you really want to get out in your life and how to get there? I just get a message here from someone saying, being aware of this wound at the age of 33 was a real breakthrough. Wonderful. Okay, so if you could either take a piece of paper or in your smartphone, if you're working electronically, have an empty page open there. I want to show you an advanced technique of the Japanese model of Ikigai. Question, and also please answer in the chat box, who has heard about Ikigai? Okay. Okay, most seem to, okay, oh no, just when I was saying it, okay, seems to be 60% yes, 40% no. Okay, first, let me give you a quick summary of what Ikigai is, as some of you know it, and then I will show you the version 2.0, because there is a newer version, which is not in the book yet, but this is a real valuable add-on. So first of all, do the following. On your piece of paper or wherever you're taking notes, make 4 overlapping circles. 4 overlapping circles. And while you're doing this, maybe I should use the time to explain you where this was coming from. There is an island in Japan called Okinawa. You probably have heard about this island, but what you maybe are not aware of is that Okinawa is one of the areas in the world where they have the highest number of people becoming 100 years or older. Malika is writing, she has been there. And some 40 years ago, the University of Tokyo was trying to find out what are the reasons that people get that old on Okinawa. And they found out there are 2 major reasons. The second reason is the nutrition. And the first reason was the real surprise, because it turned out you can ask almost anyone there, even old people, what is your reason to be? We would call it purpose, and they had an answer. Almost everyone had an answer to a non-material reason to be. And this is when these folks from the University of Tokyo decided to put it in a nice system and to publish it. And this is the original version. And then later on, as I was saying, I will show you the updated version. So 4 overlapping circles. In the first circle, please write down passion. First circle, passion. I will explain everything afterwards in details and with examples. First circle, passions. Second circle, talents. Second circle, talents. And third circle is a little bit longer. What does the world need? What does the world need? Fourth circle, and this is optional, and I'll explain in what way afterwards. Fourth circle would be, what can I be paid for? What can I be paid for? So passion, talents, what does the world need? What can I be paid for? Now, let me explain it briefly. Passion is obvious. I mean, live your passion. Do what you love to do. In a way, nowadays, it's already another extreme. Because if you Google it, or if you go to a bookstore, if we still do this nowadays, you will find tons of books or courses for this matter, which say, live your passion. But in my opinion, just to follow your passion, neglecting your talents, and even less or taking care about what does the world need, is not leading us anywhere. I give you an example. My passion used to be to play golf. My talent for playing golf, 0. And the benefit for the world, even less than 0. So, tongue in the cheek, only passion is not enough. There has to be all 3. The challenge is that most people stop with passion and maybe talents. They don't go that far. They are maybe even successful, as I was saying earlier, in material terms, because they live their passion and their talents, but they do not have something which is also beneficial in non-material terms for the world around them. They might be successful, but they are not in a fulfilled life. To be in a fulfilled life, you have to have something in the third circle as well. Why don't we do it specifically? Take a minute, just a minute, shouldn't take longer, and write down for yourself what is your number 1 passion, and maybe if you have more than one, the second and the third passion as well. Write down for yourself what is or are my passions. Just maximum 1 minute. This should be easy. And if someone is really fast, he or she might share what he or she was writing in the chat box as well. So everyone gets some inspiration if one has difficulties to find the passion, which I doubt, but anyway. Selling, okay. Okay, teaching, okay, yeah. Eating, cooking, theater, that's good. Traveling, okay, perfect, exactly, in this direction, excellent. Okay, second step, talents. And before you start thinking about this, 2 words of suggestion. First of all, afterwards you will have to write down at least 5 to 10 talents. And when I tell this to my clients, they're saying, are you crazy? 5 to 10 talents? I'm glad if I find 2 or 3. We are sometimes much too self-critical. We have more than 2 or 3. We have a whole lot of talents. So afterwards, I will ask you to write down 5 to 10 talents. But, suggestion, there are 2 kinds of talents. There are the outer talents, or you might say skills, which can be learned, and there are the inner talents, behaviors. So outer talents might be, I know how to make a presentation, I know how to be creative, things in the outside world. Inner talents might be, I'm empathic, I'm a good listener, I'm patient, things we have in the inside world. Suggestion, again, take 1 or 2 minutes and write down at least 5 to 10 talents, if possible, 50-50 between inner talents and outer skills. Everyone for himself or herself, what are your inner and outer talents. A good taste, would a good taste be an inner or outer talent? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. A good taste. I would say it's yeah, when it comes to art or handicrafts. Since taste is something very individual, what someone might like, another one might even hate in an extreme case. Uh, I personally, but that's my personal opinion, I would tend to say, yes, it is a kind of talent to recognize something beautiful. I would put it in inner talents, but frankly, I've never had this question before. That's a good question. Okay, yeah, empathic, expressive, creative, logical, analytical. Analytical depends. If you are born with this analytical mind, then it's an inner talent. If it's something you learn over time in school and university, it's an outer talent. This depends where it's coming from. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. But now let's go to the third circle, and this is the crucial circle. And let me give you a word of warning, and this is something especially with AIESEC and AIESEC alumni, I always have to say beforehand. Because in our society, we have this belief that a purpose must be something big, must be something earth-shattering. And in reality, it is the opposite. In reality, a real purpose, a fulfilling purpose, must be something small. And it is what I call the Mother Teresa approach. Let me ask you, Mother Teresa in India, when she started in Calcutta, what was her marketing plan? She didn't have one when she started. What was her budget when she started? She didn't have one at the beginning. Did she plan to become famous, world famous? Did she plan to get a Peace Nobel Prize? Of course not, at least not at the beginning. Maybe later on, yes. What she was doing at the beginning was was just walking around in Calcutta and holding the hands of people who were there literally laying on the street dying. So they are not alone in the last hours in these lives. This what she was doing in small things in her social environment. 2-3 times a year at the University of Vienna, I do a workshop for students, very many AIESECers, and almost all the time the same thing happens. The young students say, wow, great idea, super, yes, I will do this, I will do that, I will change the whole world, I will make the world a better place. And then I was always saying, okay, sounds good to me, but by the way, what's the name of your neighbor? I don't know, but I will make the world a better place, I will change everything and blah, blah. Okay, but what's the name of your neighbor? And I have to repeat the question 2 or 3 times before they got the message and see what I mean. It's not about changing the whole world. And this is difficult for us within AIESEC and AIESEC alumni to understand. We can contribute, but we cannot solve the hunger in the world. We can do something, we can contribute, but it has to start small. If we do something, for instance, to become famous, to become world famous, to get great, to make money, it might work out. But these are then the clients who come to me at the age of 40, 50, who made it and say they still have this empty hole, this black hole inside, because it's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling. Or they're driven the whole life. It has to be small. If it gets big, fine. But this is not the point. I have to see what can I contribute with my passion and my talents around me. So for the third circle, maybe it might be better to rephrase the question, which is, and you write an answer for yourself now, please. And the question for the third circle would be, where do I see injustices in the world around me where I might contribute with my passion and my talents? Where do I see injustices in the world around me where I could contribute with my passion and my talents? 1 or 2 minutes, everyone for him or herself. And you don't have to think very much. Usually the first thought which comes up is the right one anyway. Give yourself a minute or so to answer the question, where do I see injustices in the world around me where I could contribute with my passion and my talents? Beautiful comments. Thank you very much. Okay, Victoria, we can talk about this afterwards if you want. Yeah, it can be women's rights, sustainability, education, yes, but in a, so to speak, reasonable small scale where I really can contribute something. And this can be really small. Can be, in a way, it can be anything. In a way, it can be anything as long as I help in a mainly in a non-material way to help other people to reduce their problems and their issues. Understanding and sharing, beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll come back to this in a second. And by the way, this, of course, is just the first draft. My hope is, and my intention for this hour is that it will inspire you to take this with you and to review it and then, of course, to implement it. But we'll talk about the implementation afterwards anyway. So it's not the final version yet. It's just a draft. Let me explain the fourth circle first as well, and then the two additional circles. The fourth circle, what can I be paid for, is optional, as I was saying. Why? I absolutely not recommend, if you find your purpose, if you find your ikigai, to quit everything you're doing today and to change and to start tomorrow right away with implementing a purpose. I do not recommend it. I rather recommend a small step approach. One of my Indian clients, former AIESECer, of course, he is the marketing director of a large tobacco company in India, which is quite unusual for the AGAs because he's younger than 40 years. But anyway, he doesn't smoke. He doesn't like his job. He loves children. His wife is even used to work in the kindergarten. So he came up with his purpose with Ikigai as the following. He says, in India, there is a whole bunch of NGOs for orphan children. And all the people working there have a big heart, but have no experience in management or leadership. So he says he has experience in management and leadership. He loves children. So within 3 to 5 years, why within 3 to 5 years has family and financial reasons, but within 3 to 5 years, he will either start his own consulting company specializing in helping NGO staff to get more management experience or something in this area. But he is not going to wait 3 to 5 years. Last year, he and his wife started by every Saturday afternoon, go to an orphan home and play with children, make homework, spend time with the kids. This year he's planning, and I hope it will be possible to do, to make 2 workshops for NGO staffs for free, telling them, look, I'm just testing waters. I'm giving this for free to see how a training might look like. And then over the years, continue to build it up. And maybe in 3 to 5 years, either quit his current job and look for a job where he has more time and less money. He's aware of this, that it will probably be less money, but more time to do something what he really loves to do. Or maybe even in 5 years to start his own consulting company where he can really focus on doing management training for NGOs and even make some money out of it. So the point here is Sometimes it is something we can get paid for, but this should not be the first thought, and this should not be implemented immediately. This should be a process over time, to start in our spare time and to see how it's going. Is this really what I want to do, to get experience and expand it over time? Mother Teresa approach. So these are the 4 circles. Now, before I show you the add-ons, the 2 other circles, just let me give you here also well, it's not a word of warning, but something to think. Because sometimes clients come to me and say, Dieter, I found my purpose. And then I say, are you sure? And they say, yes, I'm sure. And then I say, do you mind if we check it? And then they say, can you check it? And I say, yes. There are at least three simple ways how to check it. The first way is, does it really feel good? Does it feel good? And this is very often a problem for people because we're so mind-oriented. We're so in our heads. Sometimes people come to me and say, Peter, I'm not starting. I'm procrastinating all the time. Why this? Because it's not the real purpose, for instance, because it doesn't feel good. It sounds good, or it's good up in our mind, but it's not really from inside out. It doesn't feel good. So the first thing is, the first criteria, it must feel good. But the second and third criteria are much simpler in a way. I have 2 check questions, how you can see if this is your real purpose. The first check question is the following. Let's assume you won in the lottery, the big one, the 100 millions. You've paid all your debts. You've paid the debts of all your family members, friends. Everything is perfect. You've been traveling the world 100 times first class. You are on Time Magazine, the person of the year. Would you continue to live your purpose, yes or no? And there are 4 possible answers. 4 possible answers. Version 1 is, yes, I would. Perfect. Version 2, yes, I would. And I would even do it more than before. Wow, chapeau. Version 3, yes, I would, but I would do it a little bit less. Also okay. Version 4, no, in this case, I would not continue to live my purpose. Sorry, then it's not your purpose. Because if money is the criteria, then it is not the real purpose. Other example. Someone says, I found my purpose. You still would have to continue your bloody 9-to-5 job. You still would just make enough money to survive at the end of the month. People, friends would criticize you. Family members would criticize you. Friends would leave you. But you are convinced. Would you, under these circumstances, really continue to implement your purpose? Yes or no? And if someone is saying, well, if people always criticize me, if my friends leave me, no. Sorry, but then it's not your real purpose. It must be something which is like a fire from inside out. Then it is the real purpose and has to be implemented in small steps and then over time to see if it is working or not. If our goal, subconsciously goal, most of the time, subconscious goal is to become famous or to make money, yes, it might work short time, but this is a guarantee for frustration, for emptiness, and then for compensation with alcohol, drugs, or whatever it is. So this is the old version of Ikigai. And now there are 2 important steps for implementing it. And for this, I would ask you to add 2 more circles in the way I have it here. 2 more circles. And one, number 5, I call technical stuff, and number 6, I call personal development. Number 5, technical stuff. Number 6, personal development. And there in technical stuff, you would then be writing, for instance, how you technically want to implement your purpose, your Ikigai. For instance, how I want to write a book. I want to start a company. I want to have a website. I want to have a business card. Whatever it takes in the outside world, technically, to implement your Ikigai, your purpose. But much more important is personal development. What do I have to do inside myself in order to be able to implement my purpose? What fears do I have? What blocks do I have? What core wounds do I have? What things do I have to develop, like patience, like listening skills, whatever it is? What do I have to do inside myself in terms of personal development to be able to implement my purpose, my ikigai? I hear it so often, and especially, unfortunately, AIESECers, young AIESECers, who come to me and say, Peter, we are startups. Can you help us? Okay, sure. What is your issue? Well, what's the best way to set up a website? What's the best way to make a business card? Folks, this doesn't count. I mean, it's important, no question about this. But first and foremost, I have to think inside. What do I have to do? Because if I'm afraid of something, if I have these voices in my head saying, yes, you're not good enough, or what are the others going to say, or whatever that might go on in our head, for instance, I will never, ever be able to implement even the best idea. Quite the opposite. It will only cause frustration. So, two more circles, technical stuff. How do I want to implement it? Write a book, make a movie, start a company, whatever it might be, or work for an NGO, of course, as well. And sixth circle, personal development. And now here comes the point overall. So many people now in this crisis are saying, what can I do? How can I prepare myself that I can manage the crisis and especially the upcoming economic crisis better? Shall I learn this? Shall I do this? Or shall I do this? And my answer is everything is fine. But the most important thing is that you get in harmony with yourself. Look, folks, in schools, we'll learn only facts and figures. We'll learn Paris is the capital of France and 2 plus 2 is 4 and all this stuff. We never learn about the inner world. And this is the biggest unused potential. We first have to learn to be in harmony with ourselves. And to be in harmony with ourselves means to know, where do I really, really want to go in my life? Why am I really, really here? And then what is it that inside myself is either holding me back or where is unused potential? I have to be first and foremost prepared inside, so I'm more or less able to deal with anything which is happening in the outside world. It's not the techniques, it's not the projects outside. It is to have this inner strength, this inner calm, this knowing why am I here and where I really, really want to go, which helps us to get through almost any situation, any crisis in the world. This, in a nutshell, is the concept here. Questions, comments from your side? We still got some minutes time here, so feel free to ask anything in the chat box, and I will see if I can answer your questions. Okay, Cecilia, I'm not sure if I understand the question. When and why is this happening? What can I do? What you're referring to? Yeah, Gabriela is saying we come back. That's essential to know ourselves first. 110%. 110%. This is the biggest thing we are missing in our education, to know ourselves first and foremost. And I just give you a very practical and personal example in a way. Almost all the time when I'm talking with clients about the purpose and our inner world, very fast, very often, the conversation turns to relationships, about relationships with the other sex or relationships in general. Let's put it this way, because so often, without knowing ourselves, we fall in love. And twice a year, I do an event in Austria, which is about relationships. And it's really true. When I ask 10 people what is their definition of love, you get 12 answers. And most of them are romantic. And I'm always saying love does not have to do anything with romanticism. Love is, in my opinion, nothing else but the intention to fulfill emotional needs. To fulfill emotional needs. Like, I'm afraid to be alone, so I look for someone so I'm not alone. I feel I'm not good enough, so I try to find someone, and he or she gets in a relationship with me, so I have the confirmation I'm good enough. It's at the end of the day, nothing else than trying to fulfill emotional needs. And I'm always saying, tongue in the cheek, it would be really helpful if we, at the age of 17 or 18, all would have to make an exam, like for a driver's license, which confirms that we have been living alone for a year and fully enjoying it. Because only then I can go into a relationship without wrong expectations. But this, more than everything else, requires to know ourselves. Why am I the way I am? Where does it come from? And what can I do about it? It's sometimes, I admit this, like peeling an onion. Sometimes it's painful a little bit, but the payoff afterwards to be in harmony with oneself is unbelievable. And let's face it, we're always saying to be in love with someone or to be in harmony with someone else. Folks, we cannot be in love with someone or in harmony with someone else if we're not in harmony with ourselves. First, it has to start with ourselves. And then it's, I don't want to say a piece of cake, but it's much, much easier to implement whatever we want to implement in the outside world. Other questions? Same with leadership. Absolutely, absolutely. It should be a requirement for leaders to know themselves. Can our ikigai change over time? Yeah, that's a good question. I used to believe that, and let me finish first before you say, that women might have two purposes, two ikigai, namely the normal one, so to speak, and the one while they are mothers. For 20 years, they might say that their purpose is to raise the children, until I found out, because about 50% of my clients currently are mothers in the age of 40 to 50 years, which means the children are gone. And they find out that they still have more or less the same purpose in life than before they had the children. It was just temporarily put on the back burner. So it's still only one purpose. And why is it one purpose? Because there is a language problem, which I forgot to mention and to clarify. There's a difference between purpose and goals. Very often we mix them up, but for me, the difference is the following. A goal is something I want to achieve at a certain point of time, and the purpose is something underlying, like a mantra, a motto, which is most likely the same for all our life. Now, this might create some fears in some people, saying, oops, but if I'm wrong, hang on. If you're wrong, it probably doesn't feel good, as I was saying before. And or with the check questions, you come to the conclusion, no, it is not my purpose. So yes, you have to double check it, but most likely under normal circumstances, our purpose is the underlying, never changing motto all over our lifetime. Goals are something which are under the purpose and which are things we want to achieve at a certain period of time. I'm not sure. I hope this was was answering the question which was asked. I even don't see who anymore who was asking it. Yeah. Okay. Good to hear. Good to hear. Okay. Other questions? Okay, what is fulfillment? Fulfillment is something everyone can only define for him or herself. What I hear very often, this comes a little bit between the lines here in this question, to be totally fulfilled. Doesn't this mean I'm not doing anything anymore? No, 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 no. Totally fulfilled only means, okay, let me give it to you as an example instead of theory. And maybe you want to write this down as well. Imagine a line, like our life is a line in 3 phases, in 3 steps. The first phase, the first step in life is what I call having. I'll explain it afterwards. Having. The second phase is doing, and the third phase is being. Having, doing, being. Having means the following. Most people on this planet believe if I have stuff or a relationship, I will be happy. Few people come to the second phase, which is if I do something, hopefully meaningful, then I will be happy. And even less people, very few people come to the third phase, which is simply being in the now. Simply being in the now. And what does being in the now mean? I have 3 criteria for what being in the now living means. First criteria, I am not driven by pain or wounds from the past. Second criteria, I'm not driven by the need to fulfill expectations of other people in the present. And third criteria, I'm not driven by fear about the future. So being is not being driven by wounds from the past, not being driven by to fulfill the expectations of others, and not being driven by fears of the future. Will I ever get there? Of course not. Of course not. And my Indian client I mentioned earlier, when I told him this the first time, he was saying, Peter, it helps to believe in reincarnation. Yes, absolutely right. We will never get there in our lifetime, but that's not the point. Not the goal is the goal, the journey is the goal. To get there as much as possible. To really live a life where we are self-determined and where we're not. Sometimes I ask, especially in company events, I ask them, are you living your own dreams or are you living the dreams of others? And the thing is, most of the time, I just get silence because they know exactly they're not living their dreams. They're either trying to fulfill expectations of others or they're manipulated, brainwashed by society regarding success, whatever it is. We have to see that we come from having via doing to being. Okay, someone is saying, I find it difficult to find and define life's purpose, even through Ikigai. I didn't say it's easy. It's easier than we think. The real challenge here is, the first step here is, and I will give you something to do, how to implement it before we close here. The real thing is to start with your own personal development, to say, okay, I have to get to know myself better. I have to start peeling the onion. Yes, it can be a little bit painful sometimes, but the payoff is unbelievable. Just an hour before we started our session here, I had a session with the group, and we were talking about a journey to our own inner wisdom. I know this sounds a little bit new age and theoretical, but I firmly believe we have all our answers inside ourselves. All answers to all our questions, including and especially purpose, are inside ourselves. We are simply not used to listen to our own inner wisdom. Sometimes she comes up like a volcano, but only sometimes. To find a way how to access this and to find it. It's something we haven't learned. Because of this, it seems to be difficult, but it's easier than we think. And let me show you, to finish this hour, a very simple technique. As Christiane always likes to say, KISS, keep it simple, and I use it with 2 S. A very simple technique, how you can build up your self-esteem, your self-confidence, in order to be able to really implement Ikigai. And for this, I would like to ask you to write down the following thing. Where do I have it? Here. Write down 3 things. No, hang on. Let me explain it differently. This is an exercise I would suggest to you to do in the evening before you go to bed. It takes about 2 minutes maximum. And an exercise in the evening before you go to bed. And this exercise consists of 3 categories. You have to find answers to 3 categories of questions. And the first question is the following. 3 small things I experienced today and I'm grateful for. 3 small things I experienced today and I'm grateful for. Things I did not contribute anything myself, it happened. The classical example is, for instance, the sunset, or Alex would say a good glass of wine, or the smile of a baby, or things we take for granted, like we have hot water, we have a bed to sleep, let's take the corona situation now, we are not sick, we are healthy, things we take for granted. 3 small things I experienced today and I'm grateful for, or 3 things which are taken for granted. Second step, write down 2 small things you did today and you're feeling good about. 2 small things you did today and you're feeling good about. Doesn't have to be big, can be something small, something where you can say, yes, well done. And third category, 1 thing where you say, I would be doing it differently if this situation happened again. I will give an example in a second. One thing I would be doing differently if it happened again. Example, I had a discussion with someone about a certain topic and I became very impatient. My plan here is I write down if I happen to talk to this person again, or if I happen to talk to another person about the same topic, I will try to be more patient. One thing I would be doing differently if it happened again. So in total, you have 6 points here. 3 for the first one, 2 for the second one, and 1 for the third one. In total, 5 positive, and the 6th one on the way to become positive. And now here comes the point, folks. If you do this, maybe not every evening, but at least 3-4 times during the week, in the evenings. And on Sunday, you have a look at this list. And on Sunday, you have a look at this list. It is so fulfilling. It is so building up, because usually we only see the holes in the cheese in our lives and we forget about the cheese. This is a beautifully simple way to see what we can be grateful for, what we have achieved, and how we can get better. And what I would strongly recommend to you is to maybe even use an app, and this is free of charge, so I don't get any money for this. And I'm typing it here in the chat box, so you can call it. It's called pensu.com, and with you even can set up reminders for every day at 10 p.m., for instance, or whenever you go to bed, so you can be reminded. And then it gives you what have you been doing, a summary last week or last year. And this is absolutely heartwarming, with all the stress and hectic we have usually, to then take this 5 minutes and to review the last week or the last months and to see how much we have achieved. And this way, it is afterwards much, much easier to really feel good about and to give it a go in small steps to define our purpose and to implement and to live it. Folks, it's almost the hour. My
Yes,
time is
there's
over.
one question that was
Thank you
particularly
very much
interesting
for your
that I'd like to draw your attention to. Christina asked, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this question, many people I know have had this one. So she says, I have a question, which is bugging me since I finished my bachelor, my first big milestone in life. As I step out of the exam room, I felt a moment of happiness. Then I asked, does this ever end? This run for something, this need of constant development and self-searching will be somewhere. It is just done. There will be always something else. Isn't it something? Hold on. Isn't it something to reach? Something to move forward?
Now, if I understand it correctly, and please type in the chat box if I misinterpreted. This is the problem with trying to find something in the outside world mainly. Like for instance, the milestone of having finished my studies, and okay, let me give it to you in a funny example. It starts in childhood. What is the first career step a little child, 4 or 5 years of age, is waiting for in its life? The first career step is go to school. And then finally, paradise, go to school. After 2 years, the young child says, shoot, this can be happiness. Happiness must be to go to high school, for instance. And then it's waiting for years until finally it's high school and paradise on earth. And then it doesn't take years anymore. It takes only 6 months. And the youngster is saying, shoot, this can be happiness. Happiness must be to earn money. And then finally, the first day in job, happiness on earth. Bank account is moving. But then we discover 2 things. First is we have to pay taxes, and this doesn't make a lot of fun. And second thing, in the company hierarchy, we find people above us, and they have a sign on the table which is saying, management means work done by others, and I'm the others. So this can't be happiness either. So happiness must be to make career, and then we're waiting until we're promoted, and then happiness. But then alone in life is boring. So I marry someone, happiness. After 2 years, I say, happiness must be to get rid of her. So to wait until we get divorced, and so on and so on. And then all of a sudden we discover a hole in front of us, about 3 meters long, 1 meter wide, and 5 meters deep. And the voice is saying, Dieter, it's checkout time. And I'm saying, sorry, I didn't start living yet. And the voice says, bad luck. And then I say, may I start again? And the voice says, nope, unless you believe in reincarnation. We are, long story short, we are always measuring our success on outside things. And most of these things, like finishing studies, like career, even family, status, is only because we have woundings from the childhood. So if you have this feeling that you have a high for a moment and then it goes down again, take it as an indication that something at the core is not correct. That, as I was saying before, with these three criteria, not being driven by something from the past, not needed to fulfill expectations of others, or not having fear of future, that something in these three areas is not working. Go inside yourself. And by the way, and this may be the last thing then, the best way how to do this is, okay, let me put it in a different way. Sometimes, even nowadays, a lot of managers, successful managers, ask me, Dieter, what's the most important skill I have to learn to be really successful? And I'm always saying, meditation. And then they say, mediation? I say, no, meditation. And then they're saying, what new age stuff is this? It's not new age stuff. It is important to learn to calm down our head, to go inside ourselves, and in this example, if I understood it correctly, to see what is there wrong, where am I doing something in my deepest inner world I don't want to do, and how can I modify it in small steps. I'm not sure if I was understanding the question correctly. I hope so. In any case, folks, feel free to get in touch with me anytime. You don't have my email address there, but it's very easy. It's info@langenecker.com or DL or Dieter@langenecker.com. Feel free to get in touch with me anytime. And if you're interested in some book ideas, go to the webpage, you can see there. And also, I have some pearls of wisdom and inspirations every other week. Feel free to go there.
Thank you so much, Dieter, for all the knowledge and all the sharing today. Of course, because you already approved, we're going to share the recording and the presentation to everyone. And we will be more than happy to include your email and your contact information for everyone that would like to get in touch with you to connect. Thank you again so much for sharing. And with that said, we finish with our first virtual talk of the second block of April. We look forward to have more spaces sharing with Dieter and with more alumni from AIESEC Alumni Europe.